Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday as Bill Season meeting. This is a main chair meeting, and today is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Sharon L. from Washington, D.C., who's come here to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you so much, Sharon. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Hi, Sharon, recovered but never cured alcoholic. And it's definitely a privilege and honor to be asked to speak in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Because people see in me what I don't see in myself. And also I'm going to share that complete disclosure. This is, and I will be, talking about my higher power, who I choose to call God. Because a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine taught me, he said, the jig is up. And once I was so blessed, and then I was touched, then I was healed, and then I was given a message that I am responsible to carry, not the mess, but a message of recovery, that I can only do this with my higher power, who I choose to call God. Because when I go outside of self into self and try to carry a message, I'm being selfish, self-centered, and my ego is raging. And I'm talking about me. Wow, I had to be humbled through pain. And through pain, painstaking, and showing up and not giving up. The pain had my back against the wall. And either I was going to go or I was going to grow. I heard these cliches when I first came in down the club at Metropolis Club, 5th and K, it's no longer there, Northwest D.C., in the old timers, because I was so gracious and so blessed and so humbled to get into a couple of the old timers' pockets, because they took a liking to me, because here I'm this young girl, and I used to come in all flyed up and, just free-spirited. But I was free-spirited to the point that I was free-spirited into wanting to be a part of, so I went any and every way to try to fit in, which brought me and took me to a lot of places that wasn't too good. But the bottom line was, once I came in and sat down and really listened to the old timers, because I used to sit next, this was in a meeting that, a real meeting, brick and mortar. And I sat every day. I was blessed to get to that meeting every day at lunch, because I worked down the street, and sat next to my sponsor. And my sponsor is a friend, was a friend. He's since transitioned, but I have another sponsor. And she has been a blessing. But the bottom line is, I was willing to listen, but then I was willing to listen to bits and pieces. Because, that didn't apply to me. I'm not that person. I'm not even going to look at those steps. Or I'm just listening. I can figure this thing out. Unbeknowing that if I wanted to have this psychic change, which gave me a personality change, I had to be obedient to rules and regulations and situations which guided me to change, which was the steps, which was listening to my sponsor, which was practicing the principles in all my affairs. The difference is, by me, I said I'm being a Washingtonian all of my life. And no, this is not political. But game knows game. You can hear. And Alcoholics Anonymous has a distinct tone, a distinct message. When I tune into that spirit, my high power, who I choose to call God. But I had to get to that point, because by me cherry picking different things, I lost a lot of things because I didn't want to look at me to change me. And I'm saying that to say, after years of trying to cherry pick, the pain got so great that I had no other choice but to let go of the major issue that was controlling me, and controlling my life and my pain, which was control. See, I'm a woman, as you can see, and I can only speak for me. I felt that I had to control everything. I felt that I had to have the last word. I felt that I was right. I felt that I. Who are you? That's that entitlement. That's that wanting to be, the ego, the personalities. But once that pain came on me and I had to set with self, and I had to set through my mood changes. You see, I have a lot of mood. My moods can change at a drop of a hat if I'm willing to give into that mood that's presenting itself at hand. But you people tell me that I have a choice, that I could be that wicked witch, that's putting it mildly, or I could be that humble person, or I can meet you in the middle of the road. And in the middle of the road for me is keeping my mouth shut. I don't do a lot of talking in these rooms because I've learned I keep coming back. I've seen people who thought they had this thing and they talked themselves right up out of these rooms. It's not about the talk. This is a program of living action. I also heard this is a character building program. Even though I was fortunate to come from class, I must say, but I chose to take another route, which kind of tarnished the polish that my parents gave me. But I needed to go through all that because then when I had that, I felt entitled. I was a spoiled brat, and it was my way or the highway. But that pain had me look at self deeply, to peel the layers of the onion to get to my spiritual being, which is God, who helped me through pain take a look at me. For me, this program is my life and it's deep. And if I want to stay here, I must be obedient. I must be obedient to the difficulties that I pose on self. Y'all hanging with me? Wow. Now telling you I'm a woman and you know I know it all. Telling you I'm a woman and who are you to try to correct me? Telling you I'm a woman that I'm so stubborn, but yet I say I want to be in a relationship with another individual, but that poor person doesn't have a chance because he becomes my victim. And I drag him through the mud until he takes a stand and say, okay, baby, enough is enough. Or I'll push you to the limit. But getting back to personality change. Once the pain got so great, once I realized that it was me, it wasn't you, once I realized that in order to have this personality change, I had to lean on this high power to get me to sit still with self and go through my different moods, mood swings, and personalities that was not advantageous to my personality. Now, this is a program of personality change, but in order for me to have personality change, I had to kind of go back some in my past and my upbringing, because I knew about character. I knew about dignity. I knew about integrity. But when I got to drinking, all that went out the window. It went out the window because I was under the influence of another power, and it wasn't my high power. So then when I was under the influence, it was some boundaries. Thank God I have a lot of not yet, but I crossed a lot of boundaries. So in order to get back with self, it only took a power greater than self to make me look at self so I could change and peel away the onions, the layers, and realize that, Sharon, if you don't stop trying to control, it's just a matter of time. Because you're going to be either so sick and so miserable or all alone. And I say that as it relates to my daughter, my only child, which I spoiled her putrid. Not rotten, she was putrid. And then I put all this into her hoping that the payoff would be phenomenal. But it's still life and it's still hope. To me, it seemed like it was just a crapshoot. I could be in the south of France now, all the money I invested in her. But that's okay. I believe that in God's timing, she'll be okay. So what I'm doing different is I'm minding my business. I'm letting her live her life. I'm steadily taking a look and watching out what I say, what I do, even my body language. My body language says a lot. So I have to keep all that in check so I can have peace. On my shirt, I have this peace sign. Peace. Because peace is what I seek. And if I want peace, I have to seek peace, and I have to practice these principles, and through practicing the principles and doing the work, then, and trusting and leaning in on my higher power, I have some glimpse of sobriety. Now, recovery and sobriety are two different things. Recovery, I come in to learn this new way of life so I can have this personality change, which will give me a new perspective on life. And then when practice on a daily basis and staying out of the way, Sharon, then I have some snippets of sobriety. When I don't curse you out. When I don't feel entitled, because I can be arrogant. I told you I thought I was that girl. But what did that get me? Pain. I go to meetings all around the world. I listen to all people who are living this life. Not just talking about it, but living it. And it all comes down to the bottom line. Is like I say, the jig is up. I have to turn my life. If you don't choose to call it God, it got to be someone higher than myself that I believe in. And then I have to sit still long enough, quiet enough through prayer and meditation so I can hear that whisper to guide me into all truths. But once I hear that whisper, I have to be obedient to take advantage and take heed, to practice and to do the work so I can change. Work. My anniversary date is April 12th, 1989. Last year was a tough year for me. And my high power, who I choose to call God, placed angels in the outfield. And when I was hurting, when I was down, when I was sad, when I was even hungry, my angels, rally, 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 batter, batter, batter. And they came to my rescue. See, I'm not one to ask. I'm not one to beg. I'm not one to really get honest to outsiders. That's what I have a sponsor for. That's what I have a dear friend for. But when God put those angels in my life, I was able to open up honestly and ask for help. Because usually we are people that don't mix. But the difference today is if I trust in my higher power and if I listen to that person closely, then I can say and differentiate who sent you. Who sent you? Was it the higher power or was it that other being? But in order for me to hear the distinct sound of alcoholism and who sent you, I had to have had, now I'm not going to say total, but somewhat of a personality change in order to hear. Woo! I'm getting emotional because I know this thing is deep. It's deep because when I allow someone other than myself to take control of my life, his will and not mine, and honestly stay the course. Because we're on this huge, let me say, I'm on this, and it says in the big book, we're on this huge ocean liner. I heard this in a meeting, this little passage. They were on a ship, and the ship was going down. So they thought. The winds were tossing. The ship was rocking. The people were scared to death. But it was this one little girl on the ship, and she kept skipping and skipping and singing a little ditty. And someone came to her and said, little girl, you're not afraid? Why are you skipping? She said, see, I breathe today. She said, my father is the captain of this ship. See, I love to sail. My father is the captain of this ocean liner. Even though the winds may blow, the ship may toss, but as long as I don't let that water, which is that ego, sickness, anger, frustration, come in, then I got a chance. And then it'll be smooth sailing. Wow. Oh my God. And it's only through the grace of God I keep coming back and listening to people who have the message. You know, because we are all good orators. But orators to the point that sometimes you believe in what you're saying, and a lot of times it's not the truth. And I'm not going to share the whole time because another friend of mine in here taught me, Andre, that the less you say, you'll be invited back. Think about it. I might not say it right, but I got the gist of it. And my point is that I told you game knows game. And I go to this one particular meeting and it's teaching me patience and tolerance. And people just, every meeting. But I learned through watching my father and other powerful people who didn't share a lot, didn't talk a lot, that when they did speak, now I'm not calling myself that, but I want to be in that category, that when they did speak, it was like E.F. Hutton. And I see the faces in here. Merrill Lynch, investors. I'm going there. You know, when they spoke, it carried weight and depth. And that's what I want to do, carry weight and depth. That's what I want to be, a power of example. That's what I want to be when someone or I hear someone suffering and I've been through that situation. And then sidebar, not in a meeting, I'll get their number or they'll give me their number, but mainly I get their number because I told you for security reasons, I just don't put it out there. And we talk one-on-one. But after I've tried, deemingly possible, to give them the message of hope. See, I planted the seed because all I can do is plant it, but it's God that waters and lets the seed grow. Now it's up to them. It would behoove them to listen and try. Just try not to drink for that day or drug. See, that's our primary purpose. Don't drink, don't drug, and carry the message to another sick alcoholic and there's a lot of sick in the rooms. And another dear friend of mine told me, you better judge. Now, don't judge to the point where it's resentment, but judge to the point of who you want to be like and who you don't want to be like. And there's a lot of people that I hear that are constantly talking that I don't want to be like. So, saying that to say, I'm just honored, I'm just grateful that I've met a lot of beautiful people in this room, in these rooms. Like Angie, I see you doing your thing, girl. Like Andre, like Andy. Andy is so cool. It's so many others. Rodney. And I can't see because I don't really look at the gallery when I'm sharing, and I don't want to not mention one of my angels, but you know who you are, heart to heart, breast to breast. Because when we share from the heart. And I don't mean to exclude anyone. But I can say that in the final analysis, if I don't lean in and lean on the God of my understanding and have this psychic personality change, which happens one day at a time, 1 moment, 1 second, because the real Sharon is still there. They say, would a real representative show up? But I choose not to show that representative because she's not a nice person. So, saying all that to say, thank you for asking me to share. Prayerfully, I might have enlightened someone to this message of recovery, which will give you sobriety if practice. But you have to be willing to do the work because it ain't easy, but it can be done. Thanks for letting me share. My name is Sharon from Washington, D.C., recovered but never cured alcoholic.